Why really with dairy is primarily, from what I understand, is because it really promotes, it's pro-inflammatory, right? And it also promotes the growth of IGF-1. Is that true?
Yeah, with dairy, it's a whole cocktail. Keep in mind what dairy is. Dairy is milk. It comes out of a cow's body, and it came out for one reason in Mother Nature's mind, which was to grow a calf, to make a calf grow really fast, and to have not just the protein and the fat and the calories that calf would need, but also to sort of dictate this biological change in that calf's body. So just what you said is right. IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor. What is that? It's something that helps the calf grow. I'm going to take that IGF-1. It's in the dairy. More importantly, it's in your bloodstream when you eat dairy products. It goes up. I'm going to take that IGF-1, mix it in a test tube with prostate cancer cells. And I notice they don't stay still. They start to grow. And researchers then said, well, wait a minute. IGF-1 promotes cancer cell growth. Let me take a blood sample in a person, and let's see if the people with higher IGF-1 levels in their blood end up with more prostate cancer down the road, and they do, and also more breast cancer. And then you could say, well, does milk really do that? Not just in a calf. What's it do for you? Researchers at Creighton University brought in a group of people, asked them to drink milk. These were older folks, so milk was not really their big thing. So they started drinking milk, 3 glasses a day, and their level of IGF-1 shot up roughly about 10%, which is about the difference between the IGF-1 levels of the men diagnosed with prostate cancer and the men who didn't have it in the physician's health study. So what we started to realize, milk products were designed by nature to make things grow, and we always thought that was kind of a good thing. Now we realize you're already grown. And if cancer cells are subjected to something that may causes things to grow, that's a very risky proposition.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it, right? Because if you're newborn, right, you need tremendous amounts of milk from your mother, right? So for the first year, 2 years, 3 years, I mean, some mothers breastfeed up to 4 or 5 years, however you want to look at that. But basically, most children are done breastfeeding by about 2 years old in general, right? And by that point, they've grown significantly internally, and obviously there's still a lot more growing to do. But at what point does milk become dangerous to the body? Is it as we're older? Is it as early years as children? Do we know that scientifically?
Well, keep in mind also, in the same way as there are different kinds of gasoline, some cars take regular unleaded, some cars take high octane. There is no human baby that needs milk from anybody other than the baby's mom. And if you say, no, I'm not going to give you human milk at all, I'm going to give you milk from a cow. That cow is enormous, and that cow's got a big job, which is to take a little calf and grow that calf into something as big as a sofa in about 6 months' time. So when you decide to put that in your kid, it's not the fuel your baby was designed for. It is similar in some ways, but it's an issue. And there's another issue we haven't discussed, and that's that let's take that milk and send it to a laboratory. Women all understand that estrogens can drive breast cancer risk, estradiol in particular. You do blood tests, and you find that the more free estradiol a woman has in her blood early in life, the higher her risk of postmenopausal breast cancer. So you send your milk to the lab, they'll send you a report. There's estradiol in the milk. It's in the cheese that was made from milk. It's in the yogurt. In fact, every single dairy product that you could feed to your 7-year-old granddaughter or your 8-year-old grandson or whomever, it's all got estradiol in it. And it's not much. In the dairy industry, when they're criticized for it, they'll say, well, who cares? You got a whole lot more than that in your body. The hormones we're giving you don't really matter. I think it does matter. The Adventist Health Study last year, mid-2020, came out with a report showing that women consuming even rather moderate amounts of cow's milk products, I'm talking about half cup a day, something like that, have a measurable increase in risk of breast cancer over time. Now, all of these things, I think, need more study to understand really what's going on in your body. But the evidence is already more than enough for a person to get not only dairy products off their plate, but frankly, to get all the animal products off our plate, which creates a problem for a researcher like me, because I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, and every day of my life was milk and burgers and chicken. And we thought that was the way to eat. And when my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, we thought, well, that's just bad luck. Men just get it because they're older. And we never, ever connected the dots here. But research is giving us more to think about, and luckily more tools.
Yeah, it's a good point. I grew up in Montana, in Bozeman, in Belgrade, Montana, and grew up on, meat and potatoes. I mean, we would hunt and fish and all of that. And it wasn't until, I was very sick from a poor lifestyle, by 18 years old, that I started researching a lot more about health and what health really meant. And, that led me down the world of all the research around and experimentation around, the plant-based diet and plant-rich diet and so forth. And, growing up, I remember drinking, a half gallon of milk a day because it was good for the bones and it was, made you strong and healthy. But now we know that actually there's not that much nutritional value in milk or dairy products or animal products in general, right?
Well, not so much good nutrition. There's a lot in there. If you take a carton of milk and you analyze it, the number one nutrient in it, it's not calcium, it's not even protein, it's sugar. I'm not making this up. The number one nutrient in cow's milk products is lactose, sugar. And that's there because the calf can metabolize that sugar, and it becomes a big energy source to fuel the calf's growth. You have zero need for lactose. And then beyond that is fat, a lot of fat. And the fat is very largely in the form you have zero biological need for, and that's saturated fat. What does that do? Raises your cholesterol. So we've come to this crashing realization that we were victims of marketing, that somehow convinced us that you needed to drink something out of a cow. And the other thing I have to say, Nathan, it has turned out to be funny. Some people are not so funny, really, but many people have gotten the idea that soy milk could hurt them. They read on the internet that soy products have some kind of phytoestrogens in them that could increase breast cancer risk. And the reason the cancer researchers have been really concerned about that kind of mythology is that they knew that women in Japan had the very low risk of breast cancer. But they were consuming a lot of tofu and a lot of soy milk. And if they got cancer, they were much less likely to die of it compared to other women. And so what happened here is that researchers found that these isoflavones in soy products, phytoestrogens they're sometimes called, do in fact attach to the receptors on a breast cell, the estrogen receptors. But then researchers discovered you got two kinds of receptors. The alpha receptor, which is kind of like the gas pedal, if you want to think of it that way, and the beta receptor, which is sort of like the brake. And the soy isoflavones attach preferentially to the brake, to the beta receptor. And it turns out that researchers found that women consuming the most soy, I'm talking about, say, Asian American women are consuming a lot of tofu and so forth, compared to Asian American women who may not be. Those who consume a lot of soy products have the least risk of developing breast cancer, about 29% less than the others. And for women who had breast cancer in the past, the risk of dying of the cancer is also reduced by soy. So the reason I mention this is we were all told, drink cow's milk, but be concerned about soy milk. It's just the opposite. You don't have to have soy milk. It's totally optional, but it slows down cancer incidence and it slows down cancer growth according to the best evidence that we have available.